to Winging It and Winning, a podcast show where you will be motivated and encouraged to follow your dreams. Today, I'm talking to the founder of Mama Mentor and the co-creator of Miracle Mom. She has been married for 13 years and has 4 children. She helps mothers who feel lost in motherhood find the joy of being a mom once again. She has worked with several teachers, including New York bestselling author Gabby Bernstein. Please help me welcome my friend and friend of the podcast, Melissa Lindsay. Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's exciting to be on a podcast that's so on the same level as I am, that it's trying to serve others in the same way.
Good. Well, look, we don't have too much time, so I want to get into it because I think we have a lot of ground to cover. And I think that your message and what you're trying to do is, or what you are doing, because there's no trying, you're doing it, is very powerful. And I think that a lot of women and fathers out there can benefit from the stories that you have or the motivation that you're trying to spread and the message you're spreading. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit, what led you, or what is Mama Mentor and Miracle Mom all about, and what led you to get involved with starting this program?
So Mama Mentor has changed a little bit over time. It was really a place where I felt like I was just telling people my experiences. And then over time, it became something where I realized in myself that it wasn't just about telling people my experiences, but really more about owning the person I was and the person that I am, even before being a mom. And so my message from that just shifted just a tiny bit, because I've still been sharing my stories. Mm-hmm. But it's shifted the focus on more of the mom and owning who she is, mm-hmm. so that she can turn around and be that example to her kids. Because I think that we tell our kids all the time, be yourself, be the best you, right? But we can't expect them to do that without setting that example sometimes. I think that that's how we learn, by example, most of the time. If you don't have that example, you don't know what you know until you know it. Right. And so it's been my firm belief that every time I take a bigger step into myself, a bigger up level of myself, I teach my kids to do the exact same thing. So that's a little bit about the Mama Mentor. The Miracle Mom. Uh-huh. Go ahead.
I had a question before I forget. When you said that, you had to discover a better self, that's when you're like, I want my kids to know that, and I want to lead by example. Mm-hmm. Were you given that example, or did you discover that on your own, or did somebody tell you this is how you're supposed, this is how you become a better mom? Like, how did you know that that's what you needed to do?
I think all of us kind of look at our parents, and you're like, even as a kid, I hear my daughter say, she's like, what did she tell me the other day? When I grow up, I'm going to let my kids eat whatever they want. And I'm like, we'll see, because you kind of figure out along the way, like, what are the things that like sat the best with you? And then what are the things that could have improved? Mm-hmm. And so I think that there was a lot of amazing things that my parents gave me. One of the biggest things was to work hard, right? And to own own the work that you put out there, and to be grateful and to be giving and all these wonderful things. But I also learned from them the things that I didn't want to be, or I wanted to do better. And again, it all goes back to like, you only know what you know. So both of my parents, my dad lost his father when he was very, very young. My mom, her mother passed away when she was only 3. Mm-hmm. And her father went his own way, and he had another family. And so I think they could only get to here. And when I want to be careful how I say that, because I don't mean it in a way that they're lower than me. It's just that they could only get to here because that was as far as that they were able to be taken, right? And then I took what they had and I built upon it. And I know that my kids will do the exact same thing. They're going to build on what they had and they'll upon whatever I've given them, right? And so I think it's so important to be able to show up in a way for my kids as my highest self, because then when they become parents, they will show up even higher because they've had that example.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I guess that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And I think like you luckily, fortunately, you took the good and you took the bad, and you're like, no, I'm gonna leave this here. That's fine. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to grow on it, but I want to take this, and I feel like I can do better in this area. And you're doing better because you like what it is not to. So you're like, I can do better. Let me try to up the game. So
It
that's
reminds me of a quote that I absolutely loved when I heard. I was reading the book by Lori Harder, and it's A Tribe Called Bliss. So if you haven't read that book, it's an amazing book to do with a group of people, a group of women. But the book says, or she says, eat the fruit and spit out the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And that just sat so, like, it just got me right in here, because I thought, you know what, that's really what life is about. Life throws all kinds of things at you, and you just got to eat the fruit and spit out the seeds.
Yes, good. Yep, we gotta share that quote. Text me the name of the book so I can share it when I post this.
I definitely will. So, the Miracle Mom came about with my girlfriend. She, I call her she's literally my soul sister. She came up with the idea, and she knew where my path was taking me. She knew what my purpose was. And she was like, I'd be honored for you to do this with me. And I was like, let's do this. And it started off very small. And I wouldn't say it's like a huge group, but in my eyes, as a mom of four, who just figured it out along the way, our group has grown to about 450 women, and they're all over the country. We even have women that are in Australia and Europe and Canada. So it's pretty incredible to be able to connect with women all over the world, and then see that we're all kind of experiencing the exact same thing. No matter where you are, you still have the same things that come up. So in that group, it's just a place for you to feel safe to come into, and know that you're surrounded by other women who are supportive of you. If you need advice, that's where you can go find it. If you need a laugh, we oftentimes post up some funny things. And sometimes as moms, we just need a break, and a laugh is what we need.
Yes. No, that's good. That's awesome. And I think like the one common, like language is one common language. Smiling is a common language. You smile in any country, it means joy and happy. And same thing with motherhood. No matter where you live and where you're from, motherhood is going to be difficult no matter what. Motherhood's going to have its joys and its downfalls and its hard times and its everything. So I think it's no coincidence that you guys are in other countries and touching people in other countries, because at the end of the day, people just want to be connected. Yes. And they want to be able to feel like they can talk or go to a safe place, especially when it comes to your kids, because I think kids are a very vulnerable topic. You don't want to say anything that might hurt them, or if my kid found out I thought this about them, what would they, how would they feel, or whatever. So I think to have a safe haven that you've created with your friend, think that's amazing, and it makes complete sense why you're in other countries, because at the end of the day, people just want to connect. And yeah, so motherhood, no matter where you're from, has its goods and its bads, right?
Yes,
It's hard days and easy days. Good. Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about, okay, so I was looking at your, I was on Facebook and you always have like great, amazing posts. And one really stuck out to me. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that because I can relate, and I'm sure a lot of other people can relate. So on Facebook, you said triggers have, okay, so triggers have a way of, let me see. It says triggers and how they send you into a downward spiral. They can either be a signal of healing that you need to do. Talk more about that. Like, how are triggers? How did those triggers? Or how are those signs of healing that we need to do? Because I think for me, I read that it says when I read that, I felt like they can send you into a downward spiral, and you don't know their triggers until it happens in your family or with your kids or with your parenting. And so for me, like when I read that, I was like, yes, yes to all of it. That is so true, because we can either choose to see those triggers as something that just annoys us and oh my god, and let it ruin our day, or we can use those triggers as a signal, like, okay, this is bothering me, let me dig deeper as to why I'm getting so mad over this. Like, what
Yes.
is it? It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I find that we are like, what we're mad about on the surface is really not what makes us mad, right? It's
Yeah.
deeper. And so anyways, when I read that, I thought it was pretty good, and I just wanted you to elaborate more on that if you can.
So I think it's not something I think that most people realize is happening. I think just like you said, you're kind of like, why, what's the big deal? Why did I get so annoyed about it? Or what's the big deal with getting annoyed about it? You might think. Um, but what I found is that when something triggers me, there's always a reason behind it. Like if it shouldn't bother me, then it shouldn't bother me. Like it shouldn't even be an issue. But if somebody's like, there's been days where I'm like driving and someone cuts me off and I'm like, what the heck? Right. But I feel I get annoyed and I'm like, there'll be a day where I'm like super annoyed. Like, what the heck? Why are you doing that? Like you're such a jerk, and I'm yelling in my car, right, as I'm driving. And when I reflect back on it, I'm like, how was my day prior to that? Was it, sorry, can you hear all that beeping? I don't
No,
mean
it's
to.
okay. You're a busy mom.
I don't know where
Go
all this
ahead.
is coming from.
Yeah.
Um, but what I found is that when I look back on that day, it's not the person that cut me off that pissed me off. It's about maybe I had a really rough day at work and I'm trying to get myself together before I get home to my family. And so what's triggering me is just the day itself. And that one person cutting me off was like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Or it could be something like a snooty remark from somebody and you're like, you just feel disrespected. And it's not like, there's sometimes where you can kind of like brush it off and be like, they don't know what they're talking about, right? And then there's other times where maybe that snooty remark takes you back to like a place where maybe something happened in your childhood,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even something happened 5 years ago that really like hurts you and you never dealt with it. And so I found that I try to be observant of those things. And it's not that I'm like, oh, I was triggered, what the
Mm-hmm.
heck's going on? It's just, when I'm feeling the emotion, I start to think to myself, gosh, this feels ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I feeling like this? Right. And then I'm like, like this is what happened. And then as my day progresses, it kind of like, I'm really observant of how I'm feeling. And so I try to shift out of feeling very low, because I found if I stay in that level of, if I'm down here feeling low, I just keep attracting more of it to myself. And so I try to shift that energy as much as I can. And even if it's just like a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And so
Mhm.
because I'm able to do that now, I'm able to see kind of a little bit more easily when I'm feeling triggered. And like I said, I've discovered that it's never really what's on the surface.
Mhm.
It's something underneath and something I haven't dealt with. And it can be something big or it can be something small. But what's important is to give yourself grace, right? And say, okay, yeah, maybe I overreacted a little bit, but why did I overreact?
Mhm.
What is it that's brought me to this place right now? Um, so yeah, I think that's
That's
my
what keeps.
explanation.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true though. That was that when I mean, even like when I read it, I was just like, yeah, that's true because even with kids, like certain things, with our kids, and I'm like, why do I get so bothered about,
Mhm.
dishes, for example, as simple as dishes in the sink, like it's just dishes, it'll get done. But for me, it takes me back to always wanting to have a clean house and honoring and respecting what we have and respecting what we, just trying to take care of our belongings.
Mhm.
Maybe that comes from maybe not having a lot as a child, or I don't know what it is, but just paying attention, not letting things get out of hand when it doesn't need to, calm down, they're
Yes.
just dirty dishes, they'll get done,
Yeah.
things like that. So anyways, when I read that, I was like, yep, that's true.
Thank you.
So tell me, I know when we spoke the other day, we were talking a lot about taking care of ourselves in order to be better moms and in order to be, to show up better for the people around us. Because when we're happy, everyone's happy, or when, and especially in our house. I don't know about you, but in my household, I feel like I can shift the attitude pretty, like I can shift the what is it called? Like
Energy.
the energy. Yeah, I
Mhm.
can shift the energy based on how I'm feeling. So if I'm like irritated and mad and frustrated, then everyone's like, okay, stay away from Veronica. But if I'm in a happy mood and I feel good and I'm confident, I worked out this morning, I
Mhm.
accomplished my to-do list, I feel on top of the world, then everyone's like, okay, cool. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I can shift the energy and have a big impact on my household. And so what I've learned is that when I'm happy and I take care of Veronica, I'm able
Mhm.
to better take care of the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And so I want you to talk because when we were talking, you had some profound things to say that I thought, anyways, were amazing. And it was just like, I was just in awe, like, yes, yes. And
Thank you.
so I want you just to talk about the importance of self care, taking care of ourselves and our not only like physically,
Mhm.
but emotionally and mentally and just an all around. Like, what's your take on that?
So I think you took the words right out of my mouth. It's you as a mom, we tend to hold the energy of the house, right? We Everybody looks to us because we're the ones that get it together, right? I think it's a different, very different energy that moms and dads hold. That's my opinion. Um, and I've seen the exact same thing. My energy can shift the whole household. And
Mhm,
so because of that, I feel even more like I have to be observant of how I'm feeling.
mhm,
And because of that, I know I really have to take care of myself. And I have such a clear example of when I was going through my depression and anxiety. Um, I went from there was so much turmoil, like, and I want to be careful how I say that because I think turmoil in the sense that, like, I think my kids maybe could have got along a little bit better when I was in a better place because I could be more observant of that. Or even like my husband and I, we could have gotten along a lot better because I was a better me, right? And when I shifted into that, I saw the difference in my family. I saw the difference not just in me, but my family, my kids, my husband, um, my parents and my sisters. It spread. It spread like crazy. Um, and it's interesting because even at work, I had people tell me, gosh, like you just seem so much happier now, and you're different, and you bring now. I just switched jobs, and a coworker of mine um, thanked me for bringing my positive energy to the group, which is incredible because I can remember coming into work
Mhm.
10 years ago and I was like, how are you? Here. That was my response, because it wasn't about
Mm.
how good I felt. I didn't want to say I felt terrible, but I also was like, I'm just here. That's how I felt. I felt like I was just here. And so when I started to work on myself, I found um, that everything shifted, and it went from learning a little bit about affirmations and kind of winging it, right? Just kind of
Mhm.
doing it how I thought. And I was like, okay, I'll just, keep doing this and see what goes from there. And then slowly that moved into really just like taking time for myself, like really honoring that time for myself, because I was squeezing in time everywhere that I could. And it was just like a smidgen of time, but it didn't seem like enough. And so I kind of like shifted my ideas and I was like, okay, yes, I have certain responsibilities, right? I need to take my kids to school. I need to clean the house. I need to run the errands. I need to come home. I need to make dinner. I need to pick up my kids. I need to do this, and that. And so I looked at my schedule and I was like, but if I take 30 minutes out of this little time slot, I wonder what'll happen. And so I
Mhm.
just started taking like little slots of time extra for myself to do whatever it was, even if it was to walk in a store and look at nice things,
Mhm.
But I took baby steps. And I think that's something that I try to tell moms all the time, because I think we're so inundated with things that we have to do. We have like so much going on, right? You got the kids and everything. And like I said, all the chores, making dinner, going to work, and that on top of it. There's so much. And I really try to encourage moms to find something small and then build upon that. And really, it's about building that habit of incorporating that small thing. And once you've built that habit, incorporate something else and
Mhm.
something else and just keep going. And so now I'm in a place where I meditate, which is like, let me tell you, folks, I was the lady that was like, what, meditate? What? No, like I can't do that. That's no. Um, so I will tell you that from a person who used to feel like that will never be a thing for me, I have found the most peace in that time just to quiet myself. And it's not about um, complete silence in the sense of like your mind does not think of a thing, but it takes time, right? And so there are times where I'm like inundated, where I'm trying to be like quiet in my mind and just relax, and I hear things coming and I'm like, I heard that, let's go out. I heard that, let's go out. And it just brings me back to this place where I'm back with myself.
Mhm.
And then I come out of it and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to come back. I feel refreshed. And sometimes it's 2 minutes. Really, that's how I started. A friend of mine was like, we're doing a 2-minute meditation every day at 11 o'clock. And every day that I could at 11 o'clock, I showed up to her meditation online and I just did it every single day and then built upon that. And I found a place where I felt good with the time frame of my meditation. I found what music to listen to or what guided meditation to listen to. And I just figured out what worked best for me. And that's really what you have to do on your own too, is kind of just figure out what works for you. Again, it goes back to that quote, like, eat the fruit, spit out the seeds. Maybe you're not down with like listening to Zen music. Maybe you need someone to talk you into it. There's all kinds of meditations that you can use, and there's all kinds of apps that you can use. Insight Timer is one. Um, I
Yeah.
think Peloton has one also, right?
I don't know, but I think that when you I'm not sure, but what you said is like for me, like I thought meditation wasn't for me either. And I still don't meditate on a daily or consistently. But
Mhm.
what I do is I love guided meditation because I'm listening to something telling me what to do with my body. Like put your,
Yes.
shoulders down, feel your feet, feel your body. Like that for me, like helps me focus on what's happening here and now because I'm always like thinking, how can I be the most productive? What can I do right now that's going to help me towards a better tomorrow? Like
Mhm.
my mind is constantly like, what can I do right now? And so when I have the guided meditation, I feel like it's telling me what to do right now. And so I
Yeah.
feel like this works for me because it's telling me what to do and I feel like I'm being productive. And I always tell myself like I'm taking care of me, which is just as important as everything else. So in order for me to be the most productive and my best self, I have to do things like this because because then that makes me happy, relaxes my mind, relaxes me for a second and I can do better, with what I
Yes.
get done.
Yeah.
And another thing is like self-care, like you were saying, even if it's a walk in the park or I'm doing something spontaneous like a yoga class and you're like, I'm not good at yoga, well try it out, you might like it, things like that. I went through a spurt where I was doing like hikes by myself or
Yeah.
just things like not always having to spend money, just
Yeah.
things in the nature. Like I love being outside. Naturally I'm spontaneous, naturally I have like an adventure, like I just want to do, I want to go on adventures, I want to see new things, I want to
Mhm.
be one with the earth,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I love taking hikes. And when I find that I'm lost, when I find like, not that I'm lost, but when I find that I'm frustrated or I feel like overwhelmed, it's mainly I can find peace when I say, you know what, you haven't done something that you love in a long time. Oh, you've been doing all
Exactly.
of these chores and everything getting stuff done, but what have you done for Veronica?
Mhm.
And where's like I was scared to lose myself as a mom. I'm a stepmom. I don't have any biological kids, but I have three beautiful stepdaughters and a grandbaby.
Mhm.
And so putting that role, like being in that role of a mom, um, because I'm very involved. I'm not a weekend stepmom, like we're very involved in our girls' lives. And so when when I stepped into this role, I went full throttle, and I was like, oh, and it like after like 3 or 4 years, I was like, oh my God, like I haven't done something that I love like in a long time, like I've been loving being a stepmom and doing all of this, but what do I want? Like, where's the old Veronica of like, just get
Yeah.
up in the morning and go, go hike or get up in the morning and go try a new yoga class or whatever it is. So when I started doing that again, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like now I
Yeah.
feel
And
fine.
that's the key is that I think a lot of times, we look at all these incredible examples of mothers, right? And you're like, even the best example, you take it and you're like, that's what I want to be like, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's like everything, you only see really what's on the surface, what somebody allows you to see. And you don't go home with them, right? You don't spend the day in and day out of things. And so even the greatest moms that you see out there, we all have our challenges.
Yes.
Everybody has a challenge that they have to overcome.
Mhm.
And not everybody shares their challenges and they don't have to. But what I found is that we kind of make this idea of this like super mom, right? Like, okay, super mom does all the Pinterest things. Super mom has a super clean house. Super mom has the best meals. Super mom picks up her kids right on time. Super mom is the room mom. Super mom is the soccer mom. Super mom is all the things, right? And so we're all out there trying to attain this super mom persona. We're
Mhm.
like, we want to be the best mom, right? Like everybody just wants to be the best mom, myself included. But the best mom is not that super mom. The best mom is you. The best mom is what you bring to the table, right?
Mhm.
I am not the soccer mom. I'm not. As I could try all day, every day. My son, my oldest son is 18 years old and he has played baseball his entire life and he loves it and he's incredible and he's getting a scholarship for it this year.
That's
Like
awesome.
I am not baseball mom. I'll wear the shirt, but I don't know any of the plays. I don't know anything about it. And it's not because I'm like, I don't care. No, I care because he really loves it and that's his passion. But also, it's not me. It's just not me to know all that stuff. I'm not really interested in all of it. Do I show up to his games? 100%. Do I ask him how, he feels when he comes home from his game? 100%. But I bring something different to the table. And what I bring is this. My husband, he loves baseball. Baseball's his jam. He knows everything about it. He's there. Takes him to my son's all his practices. He shows up to his, all the games, everything.
Mhm.
That is him. That's my husband. What I bring to the table is this. I don't care if you did good. I don't care if you lost. What I care about is that you had a great time because I know that you're passionate about it. And so if
Mhm.
you had a great time, I'm happy. I'm happy regardless, right? And it's not that my husband's like, no, you did terrible today or whatever, but he critiques him. He tells him, hey, you know what? You should have done this, or you should have done that, or maybe next time you want to try this and that. I don't have that I don't want to say, what's the word? I don't have that knowledge of baseball to be able to critique him. And
Yes.
so when he comes to me, he receives something very different.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of it, is that as moms, yes, we have so much in common, but we also are all very different. And what we bring to the table is so wonderful on our own. On
Mhm.
our own. We don't have to be the Pinterest mom. We don't have to be the baseball mom. We don't have to be any other mom but ourselves. And the more that we are ourselves, again, the more that we're ourselves, the more that we show our kids to be themselves, to show up as their authentic self. And I think that that really is the goal in life, is to be you, because in this world, God gave us all these different gifts, all
Mhm.
of us. This world would not be what it is without all of us having all these wonderful gifts, also very different,
Yes.
right? And I think, like when I look at you as a mom, I think to myself, you show up for them in this fashion, right? Like you're stepping up and you're like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to show up on this podcast. This is me. I'm going to show up as myself. I'm going to show up very authentically. And this is what I want to do. I want to speak to the world in this form, right? For me, how I speak to the world in my form is through like writing. I write, like I told you the other day, I'm the lady that writes paragraphs on Instagram and Facebook. Not everybody's going to read them.
Everyone.
Guess what? My message isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
But your message is for your message is different than my message. But
Mhm.
it's all a little bit the same,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that even as a stepmom, I've had to embrace that. And it's hard. Being a stepmom, I can tell, at least from my own experience, is a lot harder than being just a mom to your own kids, right? To your own biological kids. And I feel like, um, for me, at least personally, I feel like being a stepmom, there's not as much grace sometimes as
Mhm.
a mama who has biological kids. I think because they come from you and you're connected in a different way, um, there's a little bit more grace there, because it's like that's your mom, you're connected to them in a different way. As a stepmom, I feel like there's always somebody else to compare you to, and so they're not doing it intentionally, but
Mhm.
unknowingly, they don't allow as much grace sometimes. And I think it probably goes both ways for the biological mom and the stepmom, because they're such different people. Both of them bring something different to the table.
Mhm.
And I think kids sometimes, not like I said, not intentionally, um, will make that comparison, and then as a stepmom, you start to make that comparison too. You're like, oh well, maybe I didn't do it that way, that right,
Mhm.
way. And so I've had to remind myself constantly that I am not their mom and she is not me. And
Mhm.
we're two different people who bring two very different, wonderful, amazing things to our
Yes.
kids.
Yes, and to speak on that too, like you said, when I first came into the picture, of course, it was a little hard, right, on all fronts. The kids, like, okay, what's going on? They're young. The youngest was like 4,
Mhm.
and she was 3 turning 4, and then and so, oh, sorry. So it was, yes, it was hard, but I realized early on what relationship I wanted to have with my stepdaughters and what relationship I wanted to build with their mom.
Mhm.
um, because I wanted to make sure that at the end of the day, I always felt like when you respect someone, you can't go wrong. Like, if,
Yeah.
as long as you're doing what you need to do on your end, you don't have control of what other people do to you, but you have control of how you react. And
Mhm.
I understood that because I think coming from a divorced family, I understood that dynamics with stepmoms can be complicated sometimes. And I also understood that I'm a new person coming in, so it's natural for the mom to be like, who is this woman trying to raise my daughter, or
Mhm.
who is she, and so I knew I had to prove myself. And people might say, like, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone, but in my eyes, I felt like I had to prove that I was authentic. I was going to be me no matter if she was in front of us or not. I
Yeah.
was going to act and with the kids the same way I do in all areas, in all places, whether
Yeah.
we were together or not. And so once I started to show up authentic, like real with her and authentic with the kids, no matter where we were at, whether mom was there or not, um, that's when I think the trust starts to build. Like, okay, she does have good intentions for my kids. She's
Mhm.
not, I've never, one thing is, like, I've always respected, again, I wanted a relationship based off respect. And
Mhm.
I also knew that I was not going to be, I did not have the same qualities that their mom had, but I had my own, like you said, like,
Mhm.
my own, I'm my own person, and we all have our gifts. And
Yeah.
so my gifts are very clear in our family. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm not
Mhm.
capable of.
Mhm.
I know what I can do and what I can't do. So I think knowing that and being confident in myself and what my decisions are, because I lead from my heart and I lead from,
Yeah.
like, also, like, common sense, right? Like, if something doesn't feel right or something just doesn't sound right, like, I go with it and say, like, I question, what I'm doing, um or I question what direction we're going in. And
Yeah.
so I think, like, leading with my heart and also with my mind, and saying, okay, this isn't right. um and not just leading with, like, my ego.
Yeah.
Like, when let my ego go and say, look, I don't need to be right all the time. I mess
Mhm.
up because I'm human. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I mess up. I'm not perfect, but admitting that and being able to say, I'm sorry, like, to me, apologizing is a big deal in my life. Like, if I
Oh yeah.
wrong someone, or if I make someone feel in a way that I didn't mean to make them feel, I apologize. And
Mhm.
I teach my girls that too. And even my fiance, like, like, I feel like you have to admit when you're wrong, because
Mhm.
that's when people also start to say, it's not a bad thing to be wrong sometimes, because we're all human.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so
So
I
true.
think, yeah, so parenting is hard. Step parenting is hard, but I think I tell my kids all the time, like, I'm so luck, lucky that I don't have biological kids, because it would be harder. I think
Mhm.
it's harder when you have your own biological kids and you have step kids, because they already swear I have a favorite within the 3 of them. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
guys, I can imagine if I had my own child, they'd be like, oh, so and so can do
Well,
it wrong.
it's funny that you say that. My daughter last night, we were in Target, and she said they're always doing the same thing, like, oh, so and so's your favorite, or they'll say that my daughter, the youngest one, says, I'm your favorite, right? And so she's programmed her name in my phone as Bella the favorite.
Uh-huh.
My stepdaughter, my other daughter, she tells my husband all the time, I'm your favorite, and then the boys are just kind of like, nah, whatever, they don't even care. But we found a cup at Target the other day, and it said, um, your favorite, but it was referring to, like, the cup, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is your favorite cup. And she goes, you need to buy me that. And I thought, you know what? I am going to go buy it, and I'm just going to put it inside the cabinet. And then they can all choose when they want to be the favorite. They
Mm-hmm.
can all pull out that cup every now and then.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good way. We have to laugh at it. And now I just own it. Like, Alyssa's my favorite. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever it is, just to,
Yeah.
I think when you take the power away from them, they can't use it against you anymore.
Oh yeah.
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 So
For sure.
it's funny. But I want to talk a little bit more, if you don't mind, can we touch a little bit more on, you mentioned you had anxiety and depression, and I think that a lot of moms encounter that, especially when they're going through life, like hard life, hardships in life, And so I want to talk a little bit more about how that manifested for you, and what did you do to come out of it. And you did say you started meditating and started to find out what you love to do, and followed but what, a little bit more, if you can elaborate a little bit more on how you came out of it, and what was the first step you took to change that mindset, or to get out of your depression and anxiety.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I didn't realize at the time that I had postpartum depression. Looking back on it, I can see it so clearly. Um, but it started after I had my son, and then shortly after I had my daughter, and so it just built upon each other. And I just felt very overwhelmed. All my kids were very young at the time. They're only 4.5 years, like within a 4.5 year range. So right now my youngest is 13 and my oldest is 18. So I was overwhelmed. I had the postpartum, and that overwhelm and postpartum ended up turning into anxiety. I would drive myself to the emergency room. I did it at least, I want to say at least 3 times, where I was like, I couldn't deal with it. And I was like, I don't even know what to do. So I just drove myself to the emergency room. And it was very difficult. I mean, very, very, very difficult. And I know that I'm not the only mom that's dealt with that. It's very hard to deal with. And then just to add to that, I at the time was working as a 911 dispatcher.
Mm-hmm.
So the stress from that, coupled with my postpartum, coupled with my anxiety, and then coupled with my husband and I were going through a tough time. And then on top of that, now that I think about it, my mom was going through a kidney transplant. And so there was just so many things that were happening in my life. And I can remember my mother-in-law had moved in with us, and she was a blessing. I mean, she was heaven sent. She is just the most incredible woman in the world. She took care of me in ways that she has no idea. She would tell me, don't worry about, making breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She's like, I'm just here, so I'll do it. I love to cook, so let me do it. And so she would do that for me. But my depression had gotten so bad that, because I knew she would do those things for me, I would sometimes just get up in the morning, and because I knew I couldn't function, I couldn't. I was so far into my depression that I would take my kids to daycare for a few hours, because I was like, I'm not myself. And so, as crazy as it sounds, like, yeah, I wanted to be a great mom for them, but I knew I wasn't being a great mom. And so I thought, what's the next best thing? And I thought, I'll drive them to daycare where they can like hang out with other kids and like make sure that somebody is showing up for them, their best self, right? And saying that even now breaks my heart a little bit, because it was such a tough time for me. It really was. And I can remember even the thought of getting up out of bed. I heard people say it before, where they're like, that you can get out of bed and turn on the light. You know that you have that capacity to do that. But I physically couldn't. Like, I literally had to convince myself. And it was like step by step by step. Like, okay, if you can just get up, then you can take the kids to daycare, at least for a few hours so you can get yourself together. And so, but first you have to get out of bed, and then you have to put your clothes on, and then you have to drive them there. And it was like this talking myself into things. And so it had gotten so bad, like I said, that I was driving myself to the ER. I ended up going to see my family doctor, and she said, I'll give you some anxiety medication. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that really likes to take medication, but I was like, I'm so, deep into this hole now that I just need something. And so I don't remember the name of the medication she prescribed me, but I started to take it, and it was making me more sleepy. And it just didn't feel right. And like you, I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. And what I want to do is get out of bed. What I want to do is I want to be able to show up for my kids. This is not helping me any. I'm like, I need to do something different. And so, like I said, I tried that for a bit. And when that didn't work, I was like, okay, let me go talk to a therapist. And I've spoken with therapists before. So I wasn't afraid to do it. I think some people are. I think there's like a negative connotation with it. You think, what do they call them? Like a quack doctor or something like that. And there's just such a negative connotation with going to see a therapist. But I firmly believe that it's a route that you can take, and that I know that for some people it's not maybe the right thing. For most people, it is very, very helpful. And so it helped me kind of get a little bit clear. I was starting to kind of open up and figure out what was bothering me. And when I started to look at all the things that were happening, I literally had like all these spinning plates around me, right? Like I said, had this super stressful job. I have 4 kids. I just had them. So they were all little. I had my mom that was going through her kidney transplant. She was going through kidney failure, and then she had the transplant, and then thinking the transplant was going to get better. It helped her a ton. I will say that for sure. But she still had tons of other medical problems that came along. And so there was just all these things still happening. And so when I was able to see that all this stuff was happening, I was able to be like, okay, yeah, you do have a lot on your plate. You have a lot on your plate. What do you need to do? And so it was really weird, but somehow a friend of mine introduced me to a network marketing company. And I looked at this company and I thought, I've never done anything like this. But of course, being a mom, I was like, I need to do whatever I can to make an extra income, because we got 4 kids, and I think I could do this. I could figure it out. And so my husband's like, yeah, go ahead, do it. I think you can do it. But when I look back a little bit more at that time, what I remember seeing was all these incredible powerhouse women that just like, I was mesmerized by them, because they were just, I felt like they were living it. Like they were just, they were wearing the clothes that they like. I don't want to say, when I say nice clothes, I feel like when I looked at their clothes, I was like, that's you. Like I remember seeing this one lady, and she got on stage, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I looked at her and I was like, you're you, like you're the youest you. Like you could tell what kind of person you are. I know it's strange, but just by your style and like how you talk and how you walk and all these different things. And I was mesmerized more by that than actually making the money. And it was funny because I stayed with the company for a little while, probably about a year. I did make some extra money, but more than anything, I found all this personal development. It just like landed in my lap. And when I say that, it's funny because I think, again, looking back, I really, I believe that when you surrender to God and you're like, okay, tell me what to do next, or I need I need something, and you really listen, I think that it doesn't just fall into your lap. I think it's really given to you. And so, um, that's how it happened. I ended up starting with personal development. I read my first personal development book with that company, and it was called The Slight Edge. And it talks a lot about how you take baby steps and you're
Mm-hmm.
consistent, right? And then those baby steps that are consistent take you to the next level.
Yes.
And so I kind of just followed that path, and I just kept adding one more thing. After I would, get it down, I'd add the next thing and the next thing. And I would try different things, and some things again just didn't fit right. And I was like, okay, I tried it. It didn't fit right. It's fine. Let it go, move on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept going from there. And I found my own, coaches. Spiritual coaches that I felt like I needed to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I found a money coach who's absolutely incredible. She helped me like shift everything out of that funky feeling about having money and not having money. Um, and then from there, I was like, gosh, like I've learned so much
Mm-hmm.
and I feel so good. And I thought, how can I not share all of this with the world? Because I feel like there are so many people out there that are looking for the answers and don't know where to find them. And I really do have the answers. I do, because I think that the answer is to like look deeper into yourself. The
Mm-hmm.
answer is it really is always to look a little bit deeper into yourself. And so I thought, I'm going to start to share all this, like what to whoever will listen. And so I did. I started to share the information. And every time I learn something new, or every time I read something new,
Mm-hmm.
um, I do my best to share it. Um, if I've learned it from somebody else, I try to make sure that I tell them, hey, this is not my own idea, right? Um, but like I said, I started to just share all the information. And then from there, I took it a step further, and I was like, that's where I started to work with the different coaches. And I went through Gabby Bernstein's Spirit Junkie course,
Mm-hmm.
and that was incredible. She's an amazing spiritual teacher and motivational speaker. Um, and I just kept going. And since then, my life has drastically changed. I mean, drastically. Um, the latest thing that happened was I decided my stressful job of 17 years, I was done with it because I was choosing where to put my energy. And I was like, every day I choose to show up to a job that's extremely stressful. And that's a choice. It really is a choice. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got really clear, and I was like, you know what, it fulfilled me for a long time, because I'm innately, I have that passion to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've done it my whole life in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, that time is done now, and I need to do something different. And so, honoring that experience, like honoring those feelings and saying, I'm going to give this up, and I'm going to have faith that the next thing is coming, made for like just an incredible up level for myself. I felt like so free.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I was able to start a new project. But even going back further, one of my passions was I always wanted to travel. I was like, gosh, I just want to travel. I just want to travel. And I used to say the farthest that I've been is to like, I went to Mexico one time. And prior to that, going to Mexico, I think I was 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had gone to Mexico the second time, I think I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I went to Chicago once, and that was it. I'm like, I just want to go places. I want to meet people and see different things. And so since then, I took a trip with my dad, a solo trip with him, for 7 days to Oaxaca, where my dad's from. Um, Not even 3 months later, I took a trip to Europe with my mom for 13 days. Just her and I, my uncles, but it was just her and I. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bring my kids, I didn't bring my husband. It was just me and my mom. And those two experiences were just, I will cherish them for the rest of my life. And it was such a hard thing to do in some ways because I thought, people were asking me, what about your kids? What about your husband? And I was like, no, I have to do this for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And I came back with so much like gratitude for my family, so much gratitude for myself for making that decision. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you know what? We're going to do this. And so since then, we've taken all these little trips here and there. And I told my kids, like, I hope that you and we do this together, because this is a gift that, like, it's priceless to be able to take an adventure like that with my parents as adults, to go do something crazy like that. It's priceless. And I
Yeah.
was like, again, everything that we do is
Mm-hmm.
an example to our kids.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yes. Wow. And I like how you said that you took, even though back to your depression when you were getting out, you had to like seek therapy
Hmm.
and you had to take the first step. You had to like turn on that light switch. Like it's not going to change if I don't take this step and do better.
Hmm.
And then, that program that you did and that self-help book were kind of like, they helped you through to get you
Yeah.
out of the hole
Yes.
you were in. And
Hmm.
it's true, what you said is like you had to take the baby steps, because if you don't take those steps, no one can do it for you. And right now too, it's like, even if your family members are worried about you and they're like, we want her to see a therapist, like no therapist will see you if you don't consent to services. So you're,
Hmm.
you know,
Yep.
you're out of luck. You can't get help even if your parents want to get you the help, or even if your siblings want to get you the help. So yeah, it's really on us. And that's what this whole thing is about. Like, we're in control of where we go and what happens, and we have to take the first step, right?
Yes.
Because it's not just going to happen by itself. And I need, yes, we will share those, the name of the self-help book, because you never know who will need
Yeah.
it in the
Yeah.
future. And back to like what you were saying about the superwoman mom, and like always having to be like the perfect mom and do this and do that. Like, for our viewers out there that are watching this episode, I want you guys to take away, number one, that there is no such thing as a superwoman mom. Like, we all have our gifts, and we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And
Hmm.
being a real superwoman is acknowledging what your weakness is and what your strength is, and being okay with that,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Another thing is focus on yourself so that you can be a better you, which will in turn make you a better mom and partner.
Hmm.
You agree with that?
For sure. Yeah. Oh, and even just a person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Just a person in the world.
Yes. And then, because you know why? Because hurt people like to hurt people.
Hmm.
So if
That's
you're
so true.
happy with yourself and you've come to peace with who you are, you're not longing to cause havoc in other people or pain in
Hmm.
other people.
Yeah.
What other takeaways would you like our viewers to take away today?
I think the main thing is, like you said, just to start with a baby step. Start with a baby step. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. Um, your circumstances don't have to define you. You get to choose. Yesterday I just said, something that I learned from Santa is not that we're not on the nice list or the naughty list. Like, he doesn't write down Melissa's on the nice list, Veronica's on the naughty list. We put ourselves in those places. We are in charge of our own destiny. And so it doesn't matter where you came from, what has happened to you. I can tell you that they're far beyond my depression, far beyond my anxiety. I have a lot of tragedy in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And none of that has stopped me to be where I am today. I've had to climb the mountain. I've had to, get over it, but I did it with baby steps. I'm going to be 39 next month, and it's a lifetime thing. Growing is a lifetime thing. It doesn't stop. You're constantly growing. And so don't be afraid to take those steps. Don't be afraid to write your own destiny, and be ready to just continue on this growth journey, because that's what life is about.
Mm-hmm. Wow, like that is so true. And what you, again, like back to what you just said, like you have your own trauma that you experienced as a kid, that you spit out those seeds and you're like, I will not plant those seeds in my family.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna what is it called? Like continue the cycle. Like it
Yes.
stops here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. No excuses. That's what this is all about. And like when you were talking about when you're talking about how you felt like need to share your message and to get people out, like to help people because you felt like you had this secret sauce. You wanted to share your secret sauce, which is like this self-help book. It's all about you taking action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you did the work. It's not like you've, just said like this is just a hobby. I want to just try it. Like
Yeah.
you did the work. Like you literally climbed yourself out of a dark hole.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you have the space to talk on it.
Yeah.
And same thing with this whole Winging It and Winning podcast is that I felt like that intense need, like, oh, I have a story and I want to share it. And not only that, but there's a lot of people like me who
Mm-hmm.
need to hear, like, their stories need to be heard. There's a lot of people
Tia Vero needs to tell her stories.
So Tia, she that comes from an insight. I was telling her I want to be the Tia that everybody wants but doesn't have. The Tia
Yeah.
that she needs. Like we need like Tia's real honest advice. It might be something
Yeah.
you don't want to hear, but you know that Tia Vero is going to lead you in the right direction because Tia Vero has nothing but good intentions for you.
Yes.
And so that's to come later. But I have this intense need to say, you know what? Yes, it's going to be embarrassing because sometimes I'm going to say the wrong word or I'm going to say, I'm going to look funny or whatever it may be, right? All of this negative like self-doubt that we have in our head, the stuff that we tell ourselves. But for me, I was like, I don't care. Like it's worth it. It's worth it because you never know that one person that needs to hear that one sentence in my whole hour spiel on whatever my topic is.
Yeah.
And that for me is worth it. And
Yeah.
so I think that God, like you said, we were talking about signs from earth and I believe in God. So when I see signs, I don't say like the world is telling me, like God is telling me that this is what I should be doing or I need to be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had that intense need. And it's crazy because right when I thought about this winging it and winning, and probably just like you felt like you felt like you had the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
I felt when I thought about this podcast, I was like, aha, like I need to get on it now. Like I had this
Yes.
such intense burn in my like chest and in my heart and in my, like I had an adrenaline of I don't know, I just had adrenaline like crazy. And I was
Yeah.
scared. Like I was like, where is this coming from? Like I'm usually hyper and like go, 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 but I can usually calm down around 10 o'clock and relax and watch my reality TV. But like I wasn't doing that. I wasn't going to bed until like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
just doing research. Like, what should I buy for this podcast? What do I need? How do I start calling people that I don't even talk to, right? But I'm like,
Yeah.
you're doing a podcast. Can we talk? And just
Yeah.
putting myself out there because I was so desperate to start this because I felt such an intense need to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just like
And now we're here, and it's like, I think you are doing such a service to so many people, so many people. And it's incredible to see you be fearless, because even though you say you're scared, you're being fearless by showing up, by just
yes,
showing up, and really, like you said, like kind of winging it sometimes.
yeah,
And it's okay, I think, to make mistakes. It's
yeah,
okay, because that's how you learn. And even as a parent, right? Like I try to tell my kids, screwed up.
yeah. I have,
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not perfect, right? But it gives them the space, and it gives other people, not just their kids, but it gives other people the space to be like, you know what? If Diabeto can screw up, it's okay. She screwed up a little bit, and you know what? Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's fine, right? It's not the end of the world. If you stutter a little bit, or I don't know, whatever, your hair is out of place, whatever the thing is, if you can still show up, you tell other people that it's okay. Just keep showing up.
Yes, and it's funny because I just did an episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's called "Follow the Fear,"
Mm-hmm.
and I read a quote that got me into like it made me decide that I was going to go to grad school and follow my dream, despite the
Mm-hmm.
fear that I was going to failure because I was going to fail because I wasn't smart enough to hang with people in master's program. Like I was so scared, but I followed my fear, and that's what I did here. And every time that, even with work, I used to be a foster care social worker, and my writing is problemsome. Like when I would have to write home studies, I'm like, oh my god, I would spend hours, but I would take on writing tasks just to practice getting better at it, so that I didn't get so I didn't let it take control of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not gonna let this fear or my insecurity of like I'm not the perfect writer like get in my way of making extra money. I'm gonna take on
Yeah.
this extra task of writing a home study, and practicing my weakness, because that's the only way you get better.
Yeah.
So those are the little things that you do and that I do that I feel like it's our secret sauce. Like, and it's
Mm-hmm.
common sense, but a lot of people run from it. And they need to know that when you don't run from your fear and you face it head on, even if you mess up, at least you faced it and at least you
Yeah.
tried. That's what
Absolutely.
counts,
Yeah.
right?
100%. 100%.
Oh man. Well, I'm so happy that you're able to be on with me today. And it was such a pleasure talking to you and getting to know more about you and your family. And
Thank you.
I
The
want to
pleasure has
know,
been all my pleasure, and the honor has been all mine to be here.
oh, Melissa, and a minute, like you literally need to write your book. You need to write and motivate. Whatever you're writing, don't let it go to waste. Like you're such a beautiful writer. Like it's, I mean, I don't like to read. I like to listen to audiobooks. Which was recently I listen to audiobooks all the time. But again, I don't have the time to sit there and read a whole book because
Mm-hmm.
it takes me a while to read it and understand the context, and like reading
Mm-hmm.
and like comes like doesn't come so easy for me. Like I have to really like focus, and in my head when I'm trying to focus on what I'm reading, I'm thinking about what I need to do for dinner, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking about other things, so I kind of try to multitask. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And you need to write your book, and then you need to be like do an audiobook so I can listen to it.
Thank you. That's a goal. It definitely is a goal. We're taking baby steps. So hopefully, I'm hoping that in January, now I've kind of upped my date, but I will be releasing a mom journal.
Talk
Um,
about that, please.
yes, I definitely will. So this again, it like just like we talked about a minute ago, um, it's like a divine download, right? Like I asked for my next step, and I said, whatever comes my way, I promise that I will do it, however scary or crazy it sounds. And a mom journal just dropped into my mind, and I created the journal very, very quickly. I created the cover, everything front to back within about 45 minutes, which is insane. So that's how I know that it was divinely given to me. But more than that, it was in those moments of that creation that I could, as crazy as it sounds, I could feel how impactful that it was going to be, because the journal prompts for this journal are meant to help start a self-care practice for you. They
Mhm.
are meant to help with giving you some grace. They are also meant to help build a habit of gratitude. And all of these things are things that I actually used in my own coming back to myself, right? Um, and they're going to have some amazing, funny quotes, I'm calling them real quotes from real moms.
Mhm.
They're just going to be little short quotes about funny things that have happened. So every day when you open up your journal, you will read something hilarious. So you'll have that moment where you can have that funny time for yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and then you can also go to the journal, like I said, to build these self-care habits, the gratitude practice, and learn to give yourself lots of grace, and also kind of to track a little bit about what you're learning from your kids, because I think my children have been one of my greatest lessons in life. They have
Yes.
taught me the most about how to love and how to live. And so it really is. Oh, I'm getting like all choked up over it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting choked up because it really does. It was really created from my heart, and I have put. Although I feel like it's a divine download, I really do feel like it was only in that I was only able to accept that divine download because I was in the space for it. And so I just can't wait to get it out. I'm so excited for it, and I can't wait to get it into the hands of as many moms that need it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to make it available for a very easy cost to do, because I think, again, as moms, we're like stuck in like spending money on ourselves, right? And I don't want a mom to feel like she has to spend a fortune on a journal to start a habit. And so it's going to be easily available through Amazon also, because I'm like, again, I don't want you to have to be searching for a book like crazy everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be able to click a button and receive it. And so it will be available soon. I promise you that. And I
I'm
can't wait to share it.
I'm so excited. I am so excited. I'm gonna be your first customer. Like I got it.
Oh, thank you.
I got it. And I won't ask you for a discount either. I won't ask you for the homie discount. I value your work and I value what you bring. And I think that it's something that we all need, right? Because it's, again, we need something to feel like tangible, and also something we can look back on
Yes.
and be like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I felt this way. Or even sharing it with our daughters when they're older, or my
Yeah.
stepdaughters when they're older, like look at like how frustrating it was, or like even when they encounter a situation with their own kids, like look, I encountered the same thing and you'll get through it. It's okay. So I
Yep.
can't wait to share the good and the good and the hard times
Yeah.
in that journal, and have something to fill out for them and for me, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
that's good. I'm proud of you, and I'm excited again that you're listening to the divine download. I like that, divine download.
Mhm.
And I like that you're following what was put in your heart to do, because when we get emotional talking about things, or when we start to like breathe a little bit harder when we're talking, explaining our ideas, like that's a sign that we're going in the right direction.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Okay, everyone. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you so much to Melissa. And I hope that you guys learned that, look, parenthood is hard. We all suffer with hardships, being parents, and questioning how good or how bad we are, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I think that the lesson from today's talk was really that once we look within ourselves, and once we are the best version of ourselves, we're able to be the best version, the best parent, the best friend, the best person in the world. And so thank you, Melissa, for being on. Remember that winging it and winning is a mindset, and only you have the power to create your best life. Thank you for watching. Take care.